Again, for those who are just tuning in, this is the FDOT Plans Production Tools class. This is part 2 of 2. This is for the FDOT State Kit for AutoCAD Civil 3D 2014. We're going to cover topics such as creating sheets, creating plan sheets, and creating some cross-section sheets. My name is Mike Rocca. I am with the Florida Department of Transportation. I work with the ECSO office. Work with the CAD applications support team. And the part 1 class, we're just going to kind of go over a few things that we covered in the part 1 class. We looked at creating a Civil 3D FDOT project using the Create Project tool, and we looked at how to enter that information and what information in that tool gets carried down into our sheet title blocks. From then on, we went and created a sheet set file or a DST file and looked at some of the display options and looked at how it organizes our drawings as we place our drawings in the sheet set manager. The next step we did is we created a key sheet, and we added that key sheet file to our sheet set. We also inserted a location map, which was a PDF file, and we looked at how to scale it to the proper scale. And then once we put it in the sheet set manager, we saw how that information from the sheet set manager was carried down into our title blocks, and that information got automatically filled out. We also looked at data shortcuts some. We looked at how to create data shortcuts and how to reference in some of the data shortcuts, such as alignments. A lot of these plan production tools do not work without data shortcuts like the alignments and view frames. And the last thing we left off was creating a sheet with view frames, and we put the view frames in our data shortcuts to share out with other drawings. The next step, what we're going to do is we're going to create a Motif file for our plan sheet creation. I know maybe not all disciplines use this workflow method, but I do know the right-of-way design team uses a Motif file, so we're going to go ahead and show that in this example. Use the Motif file to create our plan sheets and add those plan sheets to our existing sheet set file. So basically whatever's showing up in our Motif file, like our design plans, our topo drawings, our contours, whatever is in that Motif file is going to show up in all of our plan sheets. So we'll demonstrate that. After that, we'll use the Create Sheet wizard. We'll use that wizard to take our view frames and create our multiple sheets and add them to our sheet set file. And then we'll look at the Create Section Sheet wizard, which is a wizard that is used to take our sample lines and our multiple sample line views and generate cross-section sheets, and like everything else, it'll take those sheets and we'll add them to our existing sheet set file or our DST file. So with that being said, the last thing that we looked at was this Create View Frame wizard. We on the Plans Production tab, we created these view frames in a sheet using an alignment. After that, we will look at generating a Motif drawing for plan sheets. So if I go into our Civil 3D State Kit here, you can see that we have our clip RD01 drawing that has an alignment in it, and we used our external reference manager and referenced in our design drawing in the background, and then we generated these view frames to go along the alignment. And again, these view frames are for our plan view sheets. And then we took the view frame group and we shared it here in our data shortcuts, so that way our Motif file that we're about to create can use this view frame group. So that being said, the next step we're going to do is we're going to use the Create File tool on the FDOT ribbon tab, and we're going to create a Motif file for plan sheets, and we're going to reference in some data, some existing drawings. We're going to reference in some data shortcuts such as our alignments and our view frame group. So back in the State Kit, we're going to go over to the FDOT ribbon, and we're going to select the Create File tool. That's going to come up. Whenever it comes up, you want to make sure that your project path is correct, that you're pointing to the top folder in that project. For our discipline, we're going to be working in the roadway discipline, and for our file group, we're working in roadway design files. I'm going to scroll down the list here, and for our file type, we're going to choose Motif file for plan sheets. It's going to create a output file called mtplrd01, which is basically Motif Plan Road Design 01. It's going to place it in our roadway folder, and it's using the Plan RD template for our drawing. So let's go ahead and say create file. We're going to say open file, so it'll open up in the background. And that's all we need this dialog box for now, so we're going to go ahead and say close. Now, like I was saying before, we want to make sure that this drawing that we just created, because we're going to bring in some data shortcuts, we want to make sure that this drawing is associated to this project. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. I'm going to come down here and right-click on the Data Shortcuts link and say Associate Project to this current drawing. Once I do that, you'll get this dialog box that comes up. It's just making sure that you're pointing to the correct working folder and that you have the correct project selected that's in this working folder. So that looks good. So I'm going to click OK. And now you'll notice up here on the top for our project path, we now have our project here in brackets. That's just a quick way of letting me know that this drawing is now associated to this project and these data shortcuts. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save again. And now I'm going to start bringing in some of my information for my Motif file. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring in some external references. So before I do that, I'm going to go over to the Home ribbon, and I'm going to change my layer down here to an XREF layer for my X references to reside inside of. The next step, I'm going to go over to my Home ribbon, go over to my palettes, and I'm going to execute the External Reference Manager. I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to click on this down arrow, and I have many options to, as far as inserting external references like images, PDFs. In this case, we're going to attach a drawing. I just want to confirm that I am in the right project, which I am, and we're going to go down to the roadway folder, and I want to attach my design road drawing. So I'm going to click open. And in the Attach External Reference dialog box, I want to make sure that my reference type is set to attachment. The reason why I want to say attachment is because what it's going to do is it's going to copy this drawing and make new drawings for my plan sheets. So when it does, I want it to carry the XREFs with it. So that's why I have attachment selected. If I had overlay selected, it would create new drawings, but it wouldn't bring the XREFs over with it, and I would get a bunch of blank drawings. So if you go through this process and you create sheets and you find that you have a bunch of blank drawings with no information in it, it's because you didn't select the attachment type for reference for your XREFs. So just want to specify that. As far as everything else in the dialog box, we can have everything unchecked, leave everything at its defaults because we want everything to come in the way it was created. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. I'm going to double click on the wheel on my mouse, and that gives me a zoom extents in the background, so lets me see that I did bring in that drawing. And we're going to go ahead and attach another drawing. So I'm going to say attach drawing. This time I'm going to go down to the survey folder because I want to attach my topo drawing. So select topo, select open. Again, the same thing. We want attachment for our reference type. Make sure that everything is unchecked and set at the default. Click OK. And you now see that we have our topo here setting with our design file. I don't know if the topo is setting on top of it or underneath it, so what I like to do is go ahead and select the topo file and right click, and I'm going to go to display order, and I'm going to say let's send that drawing to the back, because topo drawings are supposed to be in the back and our design drawings are supposed to be on top. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is before we execute the create drawing tool, we have to have an alignment here. So I'm going to go to my data shortcuts. I'm going to go to center alignment alignments, and I'm going to right click on the baseline State Road 817 alignment and create a reference to it. In the dialog box, you just want to mostly start at the top and work your way down just to confirm everything is correct. We don't need to associate this to a site. I don't need to change a name. The description is optional. As far as the alignment style is concerned, if you click on the down arrow, you can see that FDOT has supplied a lot of different styles for you as to how this alignment will look. We want to do FDOT proposed. As far as labeling the alignment, I'm going to click on the down arrow and we'll choose something like full major 100 feet and minor 20 feet for our labels. So click OK, and you now see that we have an alignment in our drawing. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to go over to my data shortcuts and I'm going to reference in the view frames. We cannot create sheets unless we have view frames in this drawing. So right click, choose create reference. Again, start from the top, work your way down the dialog box. This just confirms that this is our view frame group. We named it plan. It's at a 40 scale and it is based on the baseline State Road 817 alignment. The view frame style, we have an FDOT view frame style created for you. It's basically just a red box. As far as the view frame label style, we have a view frame label style set up. It uses FDOT text. Same thing for match line style. We want a FDOT match line. As far as the label, we have a label style that goes to the left of the match line, and we have a label style that goes to the right of the match line. You have to have an alignment to create this view frame reference. If you did not, this dialog box would not allow you to click OK. So because we did the alignment first, it shows up here in our box, so we know we did that correctly. So I can go ahead and click OK. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit. You can see that we now have our alignments referenced in here. We have our topo referenced. We have our design drawing, and we now have view frames in our drawing. So we should be good to go. For our next step, let me go ahead and save this drawing. Our next step is going to be to create the sheets. The create sheet command is on the output ribbon on the plans production tab. And again, it's just a wizard. It walks you through the steps of selecting your view frame group, selecting your sheets, selecting your data references, and you create our sheets. So with that said, let me go back into my drawing, and we're going to go over to the output ribbon, and we're going to select create sheets. When you select create sheets, the first question it asks you is to pick a view frame group in case you have multiple view frame groups in this drawing. In this case, we only have one. You have an option here to use all the view frames in this group, or you can come over here and say selection and just manually pick certain view frames that you want to create your plan drawings out of. So that's pretty nice. For this case, we're going to go ahead and do all of them. For our layout creation tab, this is saying that when it goes to create a new drawing for our plan sheets, how many drawings or how many layouts do we want to place in each drawing? As far as 2014 version of Civil 3D, we've noticed that we've been able to put more than 10, 15, or 20. I think it all depends on how complex the drawing is. For this case, I'm just going to keep it at 10, keep it simple. As far as our layout name is concerned, what this is the name that's going to be placed in your layouts and also in your title blocks as your title blocks automatically get created. So for the layout name, I'm going to go ahead and type in roadway plans, and this is for State Road 817. As it goes to create the new layouts and these title blocks, I do want a north arrow placed in the drawing, and the north arrow will rotate as the alignment rotates. So we'll say next to go to the next step. This is for our sheet sets. We do not need Civil 3D to create a new sheet set for us. Actually, what we want to do is add it to an existing sheet set that we created in the Plan Productions Part 1 class. So I'm going to select that, come over here to my ellipses or the dice icon, and I'm just confirming that I'm in the right project. We're in the roadway folder, and we always keep our sheet sets in the engineering data folder. So you can see we already have one here created called roadway plan sets. Let's select it, click open. And this next question is for the sheets. The sheet file storage location. I don't want this in the engineering data folder. I actually only want it in the roadway folder. This is our drawing files. So I'm going to go ahead and just go up one level and just make sure that I have roadway selected and click open. When it goes to create these new drawings, what drawing name do we want to give our DWG file? So I'm going to take out the parent drawing, and I'm just going to type in plan RD, and it's going to put in that next counter. So for every drawing it's going to create, it's going to be like plan RD01, plan RD02, so forth and so on. So we'll leave that counter in there for every new drawing that it creates. We don't have a profile view in this drawing, so that option's grayed out. So we can go ahead and say next. This next dialog box is just letting us know that we're making some data references to the alignment. That's correct. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Create Sheet button. This is just letting me know that it's saving my drawing, so that's good. Click OK. And it's going to go through the Create Sheet file process. So when it's done, this little panorama, it's not really an error message or anything. It's just letting me know that I've created some layout names that kind of duplicated the names a little bit. But that's okay. It's kind of what we wanted it to do. We can clean it up in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and click Close. You can see that the Sheet Set Manager automatically opened here for us. And what it did is it created a subset category based on our view frame group name. Okay. What I want to do next is I want to take it out of this category, and I want to put these sheets underneath the roadway plan subset. So we're just going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to left click on the top drawing name, hold down the shift key, left click on the bottom one. I'm just going to left click and drag these drawings up underneath my key sheet name. Okay? So now that we don't have anything underneath this subset, I can right click on it and say remove subset. Now to open up one of these drawings in our Sheet Set Manager, all I have to do is just double click on it. I don't have to use the File Open command or browse to it. I can use the Sheet Set Manager. So you can see here that it has created our file. It has put the north arrow up in the corner. It's got a nice scale on it. It put our match lines with the correct labeling on it. And it filled out our title block. You can see here, if you look in the sheet set plan, we have key sheet, which is 1, and roadway plans, this is 1, 2, 3. So obviously these are not numbered correctly. So to fix that, I can right click on the name and say rename and renumber in the sheet set manager. In this dialog box, I can press 2 and say next, and just kind of rename it this way. We'll have 3. We can take out this 1 at the end of the name. I'm not going to do all these, but just kind of give you an example. 4, back up, do a few of these, 5, back up, and then click OK. Now, I clicked OK. If you look here, we now have these in a somewhat right order, 1, 2, 3, 4. It cleaned up the name here a little bit. But you notice here in the title block that change hasn't happened yet. To get that to happen, you want to type in regen. You see that at the command line? Type in regen, press enter, and you'll see that your title blocks will update. I also want to point out that if we look down the bottom, we can see that this drawing has our layout tabs in it. Remember we said to create new drawings for plan road 01 and to place 10 layout tabs in each new drawing. So that's what we have here along the bottom. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and go to the next step, which is setting up our drawings for sample lines. So I'm going to go ahead and close out the Sheet Set Manager. And before we can create our sample lines, we have to prepare a drawing and bring in some data to sample for our sample lines, like our existing surface. And we need something like an alignment to go in the drawing, and we'll set up our sample lines as far as how many feet along the alignment our objects are getting sampled. So with that being said, let's go back into Civil 3D. We're going to go over to the FDOT ribbon, and we're going to create a new file for our roadway cross sections. Again, just make sure you're in the right project. Roadway discipline, file group is roadway design files. We're going to scroll down here a little bit. And we're going to find our roadway cross section. So we're going to go ahead and click on the roadway cross section. and we're going to find the roadway cross-section template. Our output file is going to be road cross-section RD01. It's going to place it in the roadway folder, and the template that it's using is rdxsrd.dwt. So that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and say create file, open, and I'm going to close this create file dialog box. Again, we're going to share data shortcuts in this drawing. So I need to come over here and save my drawing first, and then I'm going to right click on my data shortcuts and associate this project to the current drawing. Again, make sure the working folder is correct. You have the right project selected in this working folder. Click OK. And let's start bringing in some data. Now, like I was saying, for sample lines, you have to have some kind of surface to sample. So if we go over here, we notice that our data shortcut surface category is empty. There's nothing in it. So we need to put a surface in here to sample. So what I'm going to do is come up here to my open option. I'm going to go over to my survey folder where my drawing with my survey data resides in. And I'm going to choose the GDTMRD01. That's my ground data terrain model drawing. And click open. Now this is just a drawing that I manually placed in this project category. So it has not yet been associated to this project. So the first thing I want to do after it's open is I'm going to go ahead and click Save, and again associate this project to the current drawing. Again, you can verify that by looking up at the top and making sure that the project is in brackets, which looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save one more time. Now I can right click and create those data shortcuts. So Civil 3D scans the drawing and it notices that the only object that I have shareable in here is my existing grade surface. So I'm going to select it and click OK. Verify over here on the left that we now have a shareable source object, which is our existing ground. So I'm going to save this one more time and close this drawing out. Alright, so now that we're back into our road cross-section drawing, I can now go to my existing grade surface, right click, and create a reference to it. In this dialog box you can give a description, you can pick the style, how you want the surface to be displayed in this drawing. In this case we're going to do just contours major 10 and minor 2. Click OK and OK. Again, double click on the wheel of your mouse for a shortcut for zoom extents, and you can now see that we have the surface in here. The next thing we want to do is bring in our alignments. So I'm going to right click on my baseline State Road 817, create a reference. Same thing, we're going to choose FDOT proposed for our alignment, and we do want to bring in some labels, 120. Click OK. And now you can see we have an alignment here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my design drawing because I need to know where my sample line cross sections need to sample at. So again, I'm going to go to the Home ribbon. I'm going to go to the Palettes and select External Reference Manager. I'm going to attach a drawing. I'm going to go up to my roadway folder for my design road drawing. Click open. Reference type for this, we can just do overlay. That's fine. This drawing is not getting copied, so we don't really care if the references get carried with it or not. Everything else should be unselected. Click OK. And I'm going to zoom up here a little bit. Now we can kind of see where our actual design here starts. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close out of my External Reference Manager and save my drawing. And we're going to create some sample lines. Sample lines is on the Home ribbon under the Profile and View sections, Profile and Section Views. So select Sample Line. Once I do that, you'll notice that you're given an option. Your little crosshair turns into a pick box asking you to either manually select the alignment, or if you read the command line, you can press Enter and you'll get a dialog box. I kind of like to use a dialog box because if I have multiple alignments in this drawing, I can make sure that I'm picking the right one. So I'm going to go ahead and pick OK, or click OK. And I get this dialog box that's letting me know that I'm about to create a sample line group, and what name do I want to give it? Well, in this case, I'm going to take out the counter, and I want it to just be called SLG for sample line group, and then use the name of the alignment. As far as the sample line styles, we have a FDOT sample line style set up for you that you can pick. And the way the sample lines are labeled, we have a sample line label style also. This bottom here, this is letting me know that right now the sources that it's going to sample is the existing grade. So click OK. Once I click OK, I get this little rubber band that's coming off the alignment, and then AutoCAD's asking me to left click and specify the station along the alignment. Well, I want to be a little bit more precise where my sample lines are going to be created, so I want to use this option here under the sample lines toolbar. I want to use the by range and station option. So by picking that, I get some options here about where I want my station to start and where I want it to end. So for start station, I can pick this and manually type in my values, or I can pick this box here on the right and pick in my drawing where I want it to start at. So let's say we want to start at the 75 plus 00. So I'm just going to left click. Now, I didn't get that exactly, so I can go in here and just kind of type that in to be more precise. And as far as the end station, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick this box. I'm going to zoom out here a little bit and pick, I'm not going to do the whole alignment, so we'll do something like at this 90. So I'll left click. Again, you can come in here and you can type it in once you kind of get a ballpark estimate of where you're clicking at. And just a little bit more down this box, you get your left swath width option. For the width, you're going to 100 feet to the left. Same thing for the right, you're going 100 feet. And this is letting me know that it's going to sample 50 feet along my tangent, curves, and spirals. So I'm just going to leave that like it is and click OK. Once you click OK, it's just kind of giving you an idea of what your sample lines are going to look like. So that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and just press Enter on my keyboard to create that sample line group. And you now notice that it created our sample lines along the alignment, 100 feet to the left and to the right. It put our station labels on it, and it also put the name of the sample line group. If you look at these and you find that maybe it should have sampled a little bit further to the right, you can select the sample lines and use these grips and then just kind of manually manipulate them to your liking. Okay. To get out of editing the grips, just press Escape on your keyboard a couple of times, and that takes you out of edit grip mode. All right, so now we've got our sample lines created. We can come over here to our alignments and expand that group. Just if you want to take a look and see where these sample lines reside at. They're under the baseline alignment. Then you have a category here called sample line groups. Here's your sample line group name. And this just shows you your sample lines, and right now you're sampling the existing grade surface. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save this drawing, and we're ready to move on to the next step. The next step is creating multiple views. So now that we have our sample lines created, it's going to take those sample lines and it's going to generate multiple views in this drawing. These multiple views are then used to create the views for our plan sheets. Okay. Again, the create multiple view is a wizard. It takes you through the through some steps here that on the left, such as just general, section placement, offset range, elevation, display, and the data band sets that are being used. All right, so back inside Civil 3D on the Home ribbon under Profile and Section Views, click on this down arrow and we have the option to create multiple views. In this wizard, it asks you to select an alignment. We only have one in here, so it's automatically selected for us. Same thing for sample line group name. We only have one, so that's picked for us also. As far as the station range, we want it to go ahead and use all the sample lines in that station range, so we're going to go ahead and say automatic. And then as far as the section view names, we have this option for I need to back out one step. I'm going to click cancel this. One thing I wanted to point out is that for our cross sections that we're creating, we're going to create them at a 20 horizontal and a 10 vertical scale. Down here on the bottom, we have our annotation scale currently set to 40. I want to set that to 20 to the same scale that my horizontal cross sections are going to be created. What this does, this changes the size of the text and everything, so that way I know that they're going to be placed right when I'm creating my cross section. So just try to remember to set your annotation scale to the same thing, to the same scale that you're going to create your cross sections at. Okay, so that said, let's go back into our multiple view, create multiple view tool. Okay, we had it set to automatic. We had our section view names. We're going to leave that at section view station. And then for our section view style, we're going to click on the down arrow and we're going to use the 20 horizontal and 10 vertical. So click next. The next thing that's going to ask us is what template do we want to use for our cross-section sheet? So what title block do we want to use, basically? You should have it pointing to the FDOT 2014 State Kit Data Templates Sheets Roadway directory. You can click on this dice if you're not and browse to that directory manually. The drawing template that we're looking at in this directory is the cross-section sheet template. And in this sheet template, we have multiple layout tabs that were given names. In this case, we're going to use a 20 horizontal and 10 vertical layout. So click OK. It's going to use FDOT group plot, which is basically a group plot setup telling Civil 3D what offset to use as far as X and Y is concerned to array our cross sections in this view. So you want to make sure that you have the FDOT group plot selected, or else they might not line up correctly with the grid view in your title block. So we'll click next. As far as the offset range, we're going to leave this automatic left and right. That's what we specified when we were creating our sample lines. Elevation range, we're just going to leave this automatic. Our section display options, right now it's sampling the existing grade surface. So how do we want that surface to look like in our cross sections? So we can go over here to the right and we can select under style, we can select FDOT existing style for our existing grade surface. So click next. We have an FDOT page plot data band that's going to put at the bottom. That's going to give our stationing. So we're just going to leave that like it is, and then go ahead, and our last step is to create section views. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, make sure I'm away from my project some, because I don't want my section views to overlap my project. I'm just going to left click right about here for those section views. And if you zoom in, you can kind of take a look at them here. You can see that we have our existing grade surface, we have our stationing, we have the labels. Everything looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and save my drawing. And the last step that we're going to look at is the Create Section Sheets wizard. This will only work after you have the multiple view groups created. So let's go back into our drawing. And we're going to go over to the Output ribbon. And we're going to select Create Section Sheets. It's not really a dialog box, a wizard. It's just one dialog box. There's not a lot of questions you have to go through. Basically, just ask you to make sure you have the right alignment selected, you have the right sample line group selected, and you have the right section view group selected. The layout name, we're just going to call it cross sections and then put a counter at the end. As far as creating a new sheet set or where these sheets are going to go after they're created, we want to add them to our existing sheet set that we've been working on. Again, I'm going to click on this little ellipses button here, and I want to make sure that I am in the roadway folder under engineering data, and I have my roadway plan set.dst file selected. Click open, and the last step here is to say create sheets. This is just letting me know that it's going to save my drawing before it continues. That's okay. And very quickly we can see that it went through the process of creating our sheets. It added our new sheets here down to the bottom of our drawing, and it also added these sheets to our sheet set manager. Now, like we did when we created our roadway plans, we're going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to select my cross sections, hold down the shift key, select the bottom one. I'm going to drag it up under here under my roadway plans. And we don't need this section view group subset category anymore. So now that we don't have anything under it, I can right click and choose remove subset. Double click on here to bring up our cross sections. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit just to confirm that all my information is in there. I do have an existing surface. I've got my stationing labels. They line up real nice with my grid. Go over here to the right. I do have my stationing for each cross section. Everything looks pretty good. Back over here at my sheet set manager, notice that these again are not numbered correctly. So like I was saying earlier, you can always right click on them, say rename and renumber. So from 12, we're going to go from 12 to 13. I may take out this number here at the end. Click next. 14. I'm not going to do all these, just going to give you an idea how this works. Okay, so once you get all these numbered up how you like them, go ahead and click OK. Again, the only way you'll see these changes take place in your title block is to do a regen. So you can type in regen, or you can just type in RE for a shortcut for regen and just press enter. And you'll see your title block update. Again, always make sure after you're done with everything to come up here on top and save your drawing. All right, that concludes my FDOT Plans Production Tools Part 2 class.